Speaking of fashion icons, I guess these would be mine. So mine is Ocean's 11, 2001, directed by one chap called Steven Soderbergh, starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, Matt Damon, and
Cast
the
of
cast
unknowns.
cast
Cast
of
of unknowns.
unknowns,
Yeah.
little, upcomer, up and come
Right. Up and comers.
upcomers,
Yeah.
exactly. uh Quick log line: Danny Ocean and his 10 accomplices plan to rob three Las Vegas casinos simultaneously. I don't think we even need to get in the plot per se, but
Hmm.
this is the first of this version of this franchise. There are three of those that Soderbergh directed with the same motley crew. I think this is about timing. I would say, like, this movie came out when you and I were sort of in that most impressionable age frame, sort of,
Right.
where, at least to me, like, this mattered to kind of figure out what is my own style going to be, what do I appreciate, what do I not appreciate. And it doesn't get bigger than Clooney and Brad Pitt in the same movie. I mean,
Hmm.
these are the movie stars of my time, your time. And this is what I meant when I talked about, if you were putting a list together of movie stars, like, this movie will be on it for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
Now it won't be because we've already covered it.
Well, there's two other ones, so
True, exactly. So, it's sort of lived in my mind since that time. Uh, but before I get more into it, what is your relationship with this movie?
yeah, so I'm a big Steven Soderbergh fan.
Yep.
I ever since I saw Traffic back in college, and so I saw this, opening weekend, and it's funny. Like I wasn't really that into it when I first saw it. It didn't really. I don't know, something about it just seemed kind of cheap, and I didn't really
Ah,
like it actually.
cheap.
Yeah, I know it's really weird. I don't know, something about it. I was like, it's fine. And going back to it in years since, every time I watch it, it just rises more and more in my mind. And now it's in one of my top five Soderbergh movies. I think it's a instant, not instant classic because it took me 20 years to come to it. Is it, well, not that long, like 15 years, but it's definitely a classic, and a movie that is so well done and executed on every single level. Even or not even, especially the fashion and what the sense of style that this movie has is just amazing. So I've grown to
Yeah.
like it, and I didn't really, didn't hit me at the right time. I think I was too kind of anti slick and stylish at that point. Like you
I
should go back and
see.
do gritty Traffic and drug. I mean, I was a dumb kid, so I think it was just the time that
Dumb
I was
nerd kid.
exactly right. That time for me, it just hit me at that time. But
No, I guess I have a similar relationship with the movie, but in a totally different way, which is that I don't think I fully understood the movie back then and maybe
mm,
even got bored. And to be honest, I still fully don't understand the heist,
oh,
like the
okay.
elements of it that don't fully make sense to me. And part of that, I think, is just intentional.
Hmm.
Part of that is maybe because one gets so lost in just hanging out with these people and in their charm that I don't know, maybe I just lose track of what is happening. I mean, I
Hmm.
of course understand, the broad beats of the movie, but back then I don't think I did because the movie is very quiet. Like, it's not your typical heist movie which is like, go 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 from the get-go. It's
Right,
not.
right.
But what did stick with me from the first viewing was how stylish these two people were. But to your point, in subsequent viewings, like, this is like a all quadrant movie. Like, it's
Hmm.
it's like a 70s movie with great movie stars, but it's contemporary and hence it's timeless. Like, there's a cheap version of this movie. I don't know why you use that word, which is why I was clinging on to that word. There is a cheap version of this movie which we've seen come out before and since.
Uh-huh.
But there's something so elevated about this movie in its style, the way it's made, and the way I use the word, the breadth. There's a lot of breadth in the movie. Like, it's not go, go, go by design, which is what I think elevates it. So, yeah, this is in my maybe top five of Soderbergh as well.
Hmm.
Something that I revisit, often. It's kind of a comfort movie as well. You don't even have
Hmm.
to watch the whole thing. You just watch sequences of it, and it's
Yeah.
such a fun ride. But on the fashion aspect, like, it's so cool and fun to see Clooney and Brad Pitt. We were just talking about Cary Grant. I think Clooney,
Uh-huh.
at least in this time period, or even now, is sort of the the Cary Grant of our time frame, I
Right. The
think.
best we got,
Somebody,
at least.
yeah, exactly. Somebody who is effortlessly cool, and
Yeah.
he's at his peak, I think, in this movie with the suits and everything. And then on the flip side, you have Brad Pitt, who is also I mean, Brad Pitt has so many peaks in terms of style. Like
Yeah.
we could kind of break down his entire career. Probably in my mind, the sexiest and the style most stylish actors that's ever lived, probably.
Oh, wow.
But I would say so.
Yeah.
But I think it's fun to see the two of them together because Brad Pitt is a lot showier. He's always munching on things. He has these sort of gaudy, very 90s two-tone shirts, which were very in at that time. Um, and it's fun to see him opposite Clooney, who's like
Yeah.
all buttoned up and such. So I think their chemistry is great. Their fashion sensibility paired against each other is great. Yeah, it's just a very cool movie from head to toe.
No, definitely. Like I would notice that not contradiction, contrast between Clooney and Brad Pitt's fashion. It was definitely Clooney was the classic. He's on
Yeah.
classic suits, that classic cool. And Brad Pitt has the very stylish and of its time. Like you said, it looked like, Regis Philbin and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, shiny kind
Yeah.
of suits, kind of bigger,
But I
boxier look that
love
was
it.
popular. No, it's which is incredibly dated. It seems very 2000 early 2000s.
Yeah.
But I think that's because he's the stylish, the more like the fashion forward one, and Clooney's just the classic style. And it's so fun to kind of see that the contrast between the two. But yeah, they're definitely, and so many great performances in this movie. I mean, from the entire cast, I mean, Bernie Mac especially just stands out as just so funny and just using his talents so well.
Yeah.
But it's a
Elliot
great
Gould.
ensemble. Oh my God, Ellie Gould's fantastic. Yeah, it's a really good ensemble piece. That also, the setting of Vegas is really cool. Like Vegas is also a place that, I associate with. You go to look good and be stylish and,
Mhm.
kind of dress up a little bit. So it has that aesthetic and sheen to it too. All the scenes they have in the second and third act in Las Vegas, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And it was just funny too, just watching this and then the Matrix close to one another. They were both came out within 2 years of one another, and it was
Yeah.
a very dated thing at the time where EMTs had to be in everything, and they have to have a scene where they explain like what an EMT is. And
Eh.
both movies had that. I was like, oh, I remember back in that like 20 years ago,
Oh,
every movie had to
yeah.
have a thing where with a bomb that was like an EMT, and but there had to be a scene where they explained what that was because at the time no one knew. I thought it was really funny that like that was the era of EMTs and explaining EMTs. So really funny.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Also, we mentioned the scores in many
Oh
of our picks. This
yeah,
is also another great score. And back to Steven Soderbergh, like again, like there's nobody else that I can think of, at least in our times, who knows how to handle movie stars.
yep.
It's such a amazing gift to have movie stars sort of be themselves and kind of dial up their charm and their natural tendencies, but also perform. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because often when that happens, those projects look like vanity projects and
Right.
they're boring. Versus he gets to, like, all of them, even Julia Roberts, like everybody is sort of, you know, a version of who they are, but they are also performing at their A+ level, which is so cool, and very few people can do that.
Definitely. And one other thing that really struck me watching this film that I think it would be very hard for listeners who didn't grow up seeing it at the time or came to it more recently or just younger listeners, that the fact that all of these stars were in one movie together
Right.
was a giant deal. Like this was
Yeah.
not done. You'd have a George Clooney movie and Brad Pitt would have his own movie and Damon would have his own movie and Julia would have her own movie. They were all in the same movie together in the way that, the Avengers 10 years ago was a big deal putting all those superheroes together. That is what this felt like at the time. Like, and nowadays this stuff happens all the time. Even in TV shows, you have the biggest stars in an ensemble cast, but it really
Right.
was very unique and special. And I think it really does elevate the movie and make it even cooler that you have all these personalities in this film that you weren't used to seeing together and how they work off one another and make space for one another, but not
Right.
be a vanity project. And I think that is all due to Soderbergh. And the actors too, obviously, but I
For
think a lot of
sure.
that has to do with Soderbergh and how he frames the shots and sets the camera, and it's just such a well-made film, and he is just so incredible. I love his eye. He's his own cinematographer too,
Right.
like he under a pseudonym. I mean, and I just love the look of this film.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.